Uh, I can't stand here, and go into this next presentation without giving my express thanks to Dwight. He said that we gave him everything he needed. He gave us everything he had and more. The only thing he didn't give us is like 3 more years. And I'm still going to hold that against him all the way to the end. But Dwight's last day is going to be on July 20th. We are going to have plenty of opportunities to recognize Dwight in the last few days or months of his work here, and it's so well deserved. He's been a safety champion, and it's been my pleasure to work with him. And if there's ever an example of how to build a department or an organization culture and expectations of excellence any more than what Dwight has built in that Department of Safety and at Colt, that's the model. I mean, that's the way it should be done, and setting clear expectations, people performing for the right reasons. So, Dwight, on my personal behalf, thank you. I also want to just take a minute before we get into this next presentation. I'm eating into my time, by the way, so I have to move quickly. I want to just take a minute and recognize Missy, Ryan, Melinda, and Melissa for all the work that they've done to put on a really great conference. I think the meeting content has been outstanding. I thought the presenters have really taken the topics to heart and did a good job of presenting and staying on time. So I just want to say thanks to the staff for doing an outstanding job. And so I'm just going to kick off this next segment, and panelists are going to come up on stage here in just a minute. But and I know when you look back at this conference, we talked to Phil Irwin, we talked a lot about safety. Dwight just spent an hour talking to you about safety. We're going to spend another 45 minutes talking a little bit more about safety, a little safety heavy. I'm okay with that, because you know what? If I were to look out in the room, I ask you to raise your hands. How many of you have safety in your mission statement? How many of you would say safety is job number 1 of your cooperative? Okay. How many would say safety is expectations above productivity or getting the lights back on? Everybody's hand goes up. So you know what? We're a little heavy on safety. It's job number 1. I'm okay with that. I'm going to say sorry, not sorry. What I do want to start out the program with is just kind of introduce you to this topic. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit about safety. Really, it's about safety leadership. It's going to be a little bit about reputation management. It's going to be about safety messaging, setting expectations with employees and your members alike and your community. And so we're going to kick it off with a video. And some of you have been around here for a little while. You remember 8 years ago, we had a gentleman here. His name was Dr. Charlie Cartwright. And he talked about, his title of his presentation was The Heart of Safety. And his message then, and I think it's still relevant today, is if you look at the person on your right, you look at the person on your left, and if you truly care about them and you love them, you're going to do everything in your power to keep them safe. And that was his message then, and I just want to revisit that message real quickly, so we could play the video.
And I think this synonym is going to shock you. The synonym for respect is love. I was in Washington, D.C. about 4 years ago. It was the first time I ever asked this question to an audience. And I had an audience full of CEOs in Washington, D.C. And I asked the CEOs one question. I said, do you love your people? You talk about suck the air out of the room, man. So I didn't let them off the hook. I just stood there, looking around. People started looking around. So I was like, okay, this is not a rhetorical question. I need audience participation. Do you love your people? Nothing. So now people are getting uncomfortable because I'm looking around the audience. People started looking down at their shoes, looking down. And I was like, hey, did somebody drop a set of keys? Because if I want to help find it if it's lost. So finally, someone in the back, he got angry. It's ridiculous. I said, it's ridiculous? Yeah, it's ridiculous. So why is it ridiculous? Of course we love our people. Oh, of course you do? Yeah, of course we do. We know that. I said, okay. Do your people know it? He got quiet. I said, because if you don't show it, They don't know it. University of North Carolina, 15-year study. What is the impact of love on human beings? And what was their conclusion? Love impacts everything human beings think, feel, do, and become. Think, feel, do, and become. It's the heart of safety. It's the heart of community. It's love. Bottom line. If I love the person to the left of me and I love the person to the right of me, you think I'm going to keep them safe? Absolutely.
Unfortunately, many of you know Dr. Charlie Cartwright or knew Dr. Charlie. He spoke to us 8 years ago at this conference. He passed away last year due to a heart attack at the young age of 56. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, that message still lives on. And I just wanted to revisit it, just, number one, to remind everybody about this idea of love and caring and how it relates to safety, but also to remember him. So thank you for bearing with me on that. Over here, I've mentioned what we're going to talk about today. We have our panelists up on stage. They are extremely excited about this opportunity. I will just say that. So there are some times where people come voluntarily and some where come kicking and screaming. But I love the story that Buckeye Rural Electric Cooperative has to share here. They have, obviously, they've experienced the ultimate loss 3 years ago. But have rebounded and are doing great things in the world of safety, the worlds of employee culture and member relations. So with us today, we have Melanie Lawrence, the CEO. We have Danny Krum, the Director of Safety and Loss Control, and then Krista Smith, the Director of Communications and Marketing and probably everything else, right? So we're going to hear a little bit about from them. So we're going to talk, again, talk about reputation management. We're going to talk about expectations in terms of leadership and things like that. So Danny comes to us to kind of kick this thing off. The theme of the program today is Every Step Matters. And this is a campaign that originated probably almost a year ago when Danny came to the cooperative and wanted to start building this live line safety trailer and take it to the community. Many of you have them already. This is new for them. And then, we'll talk about the process, but, kind of formed into this campaign of Every Step Matters. And there's 3 pillars to this campaign that we're going to talk about. We're just going to start with kind of the state of the cooperative and when Danny joined the organization. So Danny, just give us a little bit of background, name, rank, serial number, what's your background, what your job and how long you've been at the co-op.
My name's Danny Krum. I was a contractor for about 19 years. I started out as a groundman that didn't even have a CDL. I went into an apprenticeship program, went to become a journeyman, moved into a crew foreman's role, then into a general foreman, and then kind of settled in as a supervisor. I always knew that late in my career I wanted to finish. I didn't want to leave the line world. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed teaching the apprentices and showing them how to do things the right way, but I always knew I wanted to end up in safety. I got the opportunity to do that about 5 years ago. It was for a contractor. And then after doing that for about 2 years, I was blessed with the opportunity to come to Buckeye, and that was probably one of the best decisions I'd made throughout my career was to make that change and come to a cooperative.
Great. Dr. Charlie said, hey, when you look to your left, when you look to your right, if you care about those people, you're going to make sure you do everything you can to keep them safe. Well, all you have to do is look across the dinner table, right? So give us your why. Why do you care so much about safety, and tell us the story of your son a little bit.
My son, all through high school, he had talked about being a nurse. We actually fulfilled that dream for him. He graduated college, went to work as a nurse for about a year. And he came to me one day and he said, Dad, I got to talk to you. Of course, if your dad and your kid comes to you, you're not really sure what that's going to be. So I was a little nervous. But he said he just didn't want to be a nurse anymore. He didn't like it. And he said, I want to do what you do. And I paused for a minute. I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I started making a few phone calls, pulled a few strings. I had to move myself back to a crew foreman because that's the only way I'd let him come to work is if I got to be the one to teach him. So he now works for AEP. He's a good lineman. He's very smart, very knowledgeable. And he probably gets aggravated at me most days because I call 4 and 5 times a day and FaceTime because I want to know what he's doing. I want to see what he's doing. We have a lot of really good conversations. If he's on an outage on the weekend, as long as it's close, I'll leave my house and go out to be with him, take him food, drinks, because I just want to make sure he's still working the way that I taught him. So shortly after I got to Buckeye, I've been there almost 3 years now, but shortly after I got there, I got to thinking about, the passion that I put in him to keeping him safe and keeping him, knowledgeable and always doing the right thing. That, the guys at work, they may not be my son, but I could still pour that same passion into them. So that just kind of became the standard that, I hold myself to.
I think that's awesome, Danny. So, this whole campaign, the Every Step Matters campaign, we kind of put a theme to it, but where this started was with the live line demo trailer. A lot of our co-ops have them, actively using them, but talk about how meaningful that was and kind of jump-starting, the safety culture and just the reputation management piece of the puzzle with the members and the employees.
Sure. So I approached Melanie about, having our own live line demo trailer. 2 of the 7 of our cooperative principles are opportunities for education and concern for the community. And I knew having this would be a tool that we would be able to support both. Not only to further educate our own employees, but to, go out to our 9 surrounding counties and offer education for safety there as well. So as I continue to work on the trailer, Krista was working on the Every Step Matters campaign, and by coincidence, we both kind of finished up around the same time. So as we was preparing for our ribbon cutting ceremonies, I was up Krista's office talking, and we kind of both it was just kind of a natural fit for the two to just kind of merge together. The message that they both had, the audience, and the purpose, everything just aligned. So actually what started out as 2 complete separate different projects became a unified vision, I guess you would say. Krista had a strong campaign. She had a meaningful name. We had a live line trailer that I guess brought to life both ideas and spoke directly to the people we wanted to reach.
Yeah, and so the kind of encapsulating what you were trying to tell your son, you said, hey, trying to put that all down on paper. What resulted in that were the 10 life-saving rules that you came up with. And so just talk about that for a minute, that was kind of the foundation of what you were trying to set as expectations, not just for your son, but for, all those people that work for you or work for Buckeye Rural.
So we came up with the Power of 10, which is the name we settled with. Throughout my career as a contractor, I'd heard slogans and those life-saving principles, and they were rules that, when done correctly, that's what got you to work every day and what got you home at the end of the day. So I decided that, we didn't have anything currently like that, so I grabbed a safety manual and policies and procedures and kind of dove into that a little bit. And it's kind of, those 10 rules are kind of almost industry-wide, so to speak, but you have to kind of manipulate them a little bit to fit the cooperative world because, the things that we do don't always match up as, what I was used to at the time was a contractor. So I used our safety manual and our policies and procedures to, fit that for Buckeye and got finished with that project, and I took it to Melanie. Of course, I got her approval on it. I don't know if Dwight's still in here, but we needed one more approval. So I drove to Columbus and sat down and talked to Dwight, and me and him went over it, and of course he agreed that this was going to be a powerful tool. So we came back, and then me and Melanie had started to discuss the name because we knew it had to be more than just a title. But instead of a rule, we didn't want to really look at it as life-saving rules. We wanted to look at it as a standard and more of a personal commitment to, each person needed to take it as a personal commitment. And that's kind of where it settled in at, and the guys took to it great. And we use those Power of 10 daily, and tomorrow we'll have a refresher on the Power of 10, which will be our focus meeting for in the morning.
Great. And so one of the questions I asked you was, to tell us a story about maybe how it impacted one individual or all the individuals, but tell us a story about Jerry and how this, you took somebody who was, maybe on one side of the fence, you kind of, your leadership and this program kind of convinced them to do things maybe a little bit differently.
Right. Jerry, I'd known Jerry for a long time. Me and Jerry both worked in the contract world, consider Jerry a really good friend. He actually worked for me for a little while as a contractor. Our paths we crossed paths again after I got to Buckeye. And as I went out to do like crew audits and crew visits, I'd go out and talk to Jerry. Jerry didn't need help doing line work. Jerry was very good at that portion, but Jerry just needed to take safety a little bit more serious. Not just for himself, but for the people that he was responsible for that day. So I took a different approach with Jerry. Like I said, I would go out to do crew audits and crew visits, and I'd make corrections. But I started telling Jerry thank you, and never missed that opportunity. So as I found moving forward as we went out, I wouldn't find as much wrong, but I still said thank you. And then it got to a point where I wasn't finding anything wrong at all, but I still said thank you. I appreciate you stepping up. So Jerry started to come around, kind of see things from a different perspective, and just started doing a good job. Jerry no longer works at Buckeye. He since went back to the contract world. But the day Jerry left, he was getting some of his personal items out of his truck and packing them over. So I wanted to make sure I told him bye. And, we shook hands, gave each other a hug, told each other we loved each other, that kind of thing. And as Jerry left and I watched his truck leave the gate, I was proud of Jerry. I was proud of the person he was. I was proud of the lineman that he was. But I was probably more proud of the mentor that he had became to the younger linemen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we talk about the heart of safety, in my mind, what you demonstrated to him is that you cared about him, and you said thank you, and you cared about his work. You weren't going out there to try to find things wrong. You're going out there to reinforce, good behaviors, and
people need to know you care, Doug. I mean, if they need to know that, if they don't think you care, then it's hard to make an impression or even be an influence if they don't truly believe that you care about them personally.
Yeah, thanks. Krista, I'm going to turn to you now, talk about the Every Step Matters campaign. Just I think not everybody understands, but a little state of play for Buckeye Rural Electric Cooperative. So ACSI score, member satisfaction, service territory, rates, terrain, things like that. Just kind of give us the challenges that you have down there.
Okay, so, Every Step Matters kind of started with a simple but powerful goal that Danny talked to us about. He would come up to my office all the time and say he had one goal. He wanted everybody to go home safe every night. But we were kind of facing new challenges at Buckeye. It wasn't just from a lineman's perspective, but we were having an increased amount of threats, so we had to close down the lobby. Facebook was always where everybody went to express their frustrations, and that was becoming more and more. And as you said, our ACSI scores were at a historic low. A lot of we're in kind of the highest poverty rates in Ohio, so with that kind of comes education. And it's sometimes hard to explain that terrain has something to do with your rates, or maybe it has to do with more outages or restoral time. So sometimes that's hard to do, but we realized that this safety conversation needed to go way beyond internal. And with the campaign, we wanted to make a message that made safety everybody's responsibility, not just the employees, but the members as well.
So, we talk about campaigns, right? And what we're talking about is not just a simple ad, it's not just a simple leadership message, but it's a comprehensive campaign. So just talk a little bit about all the tactics, all the tools that you're able to use to kind of get these messages across.
Yeah. So we had never really put together a comprehensive campaign before, and I guess it all goes back to, at the end of the day, electricity is not really an option, and who your provider is not really something that you can shop for. So justifying spending that money on putting a campaign together and the time, especially when you're a one-man department, doesn't make sense. But we knew that our brand reputation wasn't really where we wanted it to be, and we needed to rebuild trust with our members. So we got back from Connect, and Shelby, Tim, and I sat down and we had some brainstorming. And I said, we don't need to sell the service, we need to sell the connection. And they reassured me that I didn't have to do this by myself, that they'd help me every step of the way, and we needed to kind of dive into this. So once we would, throw something on Facebook that reached to a certain demographic, or maybe we would put something in the magazine, but we didn't have a clear plan that this all needs to go together. So that was kind of our first time doing that, and we used every avenue that we can to reach our members.
Great. Let's kind of dive into the different parts of the campaign. 3 pillars of the campaign, the ones we serve, the ones we love, and the ones we lost.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the first pillar of the campaign, the ones we serve, and what was the goal of that part of the program? Well, who's the audience? And we'll go through some of the campaign material.
So kind of coming back to that, the brand reputation part of it, we do a lot in our community. We're very involved in our community, but we could do a lot better job at showcasing the things that we're doing. So we might be out there, but they weren't necessarily seeing it. One example, and you can kind of, I don't know if it's on the screen, but we have a member, Eugene Stout. He's been on our line since the 30s. And every once in a while, we have our energy advisor who will just stop by Eugene's house. He still runs a farm, and he'll ask Eugene, what can we do for you? What do you need? And that was kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to be more than just a cooperative. We wanted to be your neighbor, and we kind of positioned ourselves with that. So with Danny having the Liveline trailer up and running, it was just the perfect time to kind of tie that in. So as we were doing that, Danny had reached, I think, 300 people in the span of 4 months. He was taking the trailer to first responders, to students, to EMA directors, anybody that kind of wanted to listen or learn about electricity and how to stay safe around it, Danny was getting in front of. So we took the opportunity to take video testimonials of what people were saying, so we could put this, on social media, and it wasn't us telling you how great we are, it was you telling you how good we were doing. So.
Great. Well, let's take a look at the video, and I think we'll see Eugene in the video. So. The first part of the program, so the video was used on social media, and to talk about the rest of the campaign. So this is a comprehensive campaign,
Right.
all happening at the same time. So we'll just kind of run through a couple slides here and
Yeah,
just talk about them.
Yeah, so social media, it just kind of what I mentioned, we just wanted to show members what we were doing in the communities. We were doing it already, but we just wanted to make sure that they were seeing what we were doing a little more than we had done in the past.
So there's some social media
Yeah.
Some, I think, is that Eugene in the middle of the picture?
Yep, that's Eugene in the middle.
Yeah, the middle.
That's
So,
just,
live line safety demos, linemen, participating.
yep.
And then talk a little bit about the magazine, how you use the magazine.
So the magazine, I don't know if any of you have had to communicate with linemen, but if you ask them what their last all-staff email is, they probably can't tell you. So that was kind of the objective here, is to touch everybody in a way that somebody's going to absorb that information, no matter how they get it. And hopefully, when they start seeing it, maybe it's a bill stuffer, or maybe it's the magazine, maybe it's social media. It's going to start being familiar to them, and they're going to be connected to that.
Yeah, and so phase 2 of the campaign, as we move into that, for the ones we love, so talk about the target audience there. What were the kind of high-level messages, and then we'll go through kind of some of the same things.
So for the ones we love, it was a very intentional attempt to humanize us as a co-op. When there's an extended outage, you don't often think about the lineman who might have just left his little girl's birthday party, which you'll see in the video. But it's a very real thing that we deal with. They love their jobs, they're very passionate about their jobs, but at the end of the day, they are making sacrifices, and that's something that we wanted to let our members know. It's not that we're prioritizing speed over service, but we're prioritizing safety over speed, because everybody has someone to get back to at the end of the day.
Let's take a look at the video. So the video then starts bringing a lot of the human element into it, right? And a little bit of a tearjerker, but this is the reality of our linemen, right? I mean, we answer the call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're at a kids' ball game or at a birthday party or whatever. This is where I think the really cool part of the campaign is you brought in the ladies behind the linemen.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. We'll go through a couple of the slides here.
Yeah. So for me, I think this was the most pivotal point of the campaign, and it did humanize us more than I think we even expected. So I sat down with some of the linemen wives, and I just said, "What's an outage like from your perspective?" And I got all kinds of answers. So some of them said, "Well, I'm sitting here in the dark. I don't have any way to heat the house, and he's out there restoring power for somebody else." And others said, once they leave on an outage, I don't know how long they're going to be gone. I might not see them for 16 days. So you just got a lot of really human sides of what that looks like to be a lineman wife. And people responded to it extremely well. They were engaging with it. They were commenting back about, "Oh, I didn't think about that." So at the end of that, when the series of the ladies behind the linemen was kind of over, we had people looking at our lineman not as a Buckeye lineman, but they were looking at it as, "Oh, that's Trey. He has a baby due in a couple months." Or, "Hey, that's Cupcake. His daughter plays volleyball with my daughter." So we just really started seeing them being humanized, and that was the intent.
Yeah. And one thing we didn't talk about was the timing of the entire campaign. So this started, probably started back in like July, August timeframe.
Planning,
But the three pillars, were kind of October, November, and December. And
Yes.
so the November part of it then, was an opportunity to kind of express appreciation to the members for, their patronage and their commitment to understanding that safety is job number one, right?
Right, yeah, like I said in the beginning, we really wanted this to be a shared responsibility, and because we were starting to see that, kind of like Danny said, we just wanted to make sure we were thanking them and let them know that we recognize that they're kind of in this with us now, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. And then, again, another piece, the comprehensive campaign, the magazine. And here I thought I would just ask you to talk about the importance of customizing the front cover and then tying that cover into the inside story, and how that played into the campaign as well.
Well, first of all, I want to say that our magazine team does a really great job, so their covers are always great. But for our campaign, it needed to be a little bit more specialized. And again, we kind of talked about it, but when you see that little girl, you think, oh, I recognize her from that video. And you can't help but feel a little empathy when you open that page and see the lineman driving away from his little girl's birthday party. And you maybe think about it from a different perspective at that point.
Yeah, and so, some other tactics, that went along with this. You just talk real quickly about these.
Yeah, so like I said, one-man department, we don't always have enough hands, but we thought it would be a great idea to roll out a website at the same time as a campaign and a new safety trailer, but we did it. So we had never sent out an email marketing campaign before, but with our new website up, we thought this was the perfect time to give that a try, see if we could drive people to the website using our campaign. So this went out to all members. We had a 54% read rate, and if, I Googled it on some marketing websites before we came here, the average email marketing campaign is open anywhere from 10 to 25%. So that told us that our message was resonating with our members, at least enough for them to click on the email and look into it more.
Fantastic.
And then with the bill stuffer there, that was just kind of reiterating Danny's message about safety and downlines. It was the same message he was saying in his live line demonstration, and we wanted to make sure members had that handy.
Great. And then, so the last part of the campaign obviously was culminated in December on the anniversary of, Blake's passing, the ones we lost. So we'll play the video real quick, and then we'll just talk. We go backwards. Play the video. Thank you. So obviously the last part of the campaign was to remember Blake, but at this point, like in December, you're trying to tie the whole campaign together, right?
Yeah.
For the ones we love, the ones we serve, and the ones we lost. And so you, in addition to additional Facebook posts, you had the custom cover again in December. Brandie was able to kind of write a message to the membership.
Yeah.
And really speaking to all the employees as well. That was an important part of the campaign as well, right?
Yes, so, this was part of the campaign that wasn't marketing at all. This was a reality for us, something that we live every day. Safety's always been something that we talk about in a meeting, but it's also something for us now that we just carry with us every day. Blake changed us as a co-op. He changed us as people, even if we didn't know him. So for this magazine specifically, you get that in the mail and you see two young linemen kneeling to honor their friend. We wanted the message inside to be just as powerful. So typically when you open your Ohio Cooperative Living, you see a message from the message from the CEO. We wanted this to be a message from a mother. We wanted to give Brandie the opportunity to talk about what she's been through, to say a little bit about Blake and what life is like afterwards. just so they can, there's importance to safety that affects more than just the co-op and it affects more than just the membership, but there's a family out there that's going through this as well.
Just a couple other things. Other campaign materials we're wearing, we're modeling, our Every Step Matters t-shirts. You mentioned the website, things like that. We have posters, we have banner ups. I mean, this was, when we talk about a comprehensive campaign, this was all of the above, right? So let's talk about results a little bit, not that, again, part of this was the messaging, but, there's always a little bit of the measurement part.
Right.
So just talk a little bit about some of the numbers.
Yeah, when Melanie and I first started talking about what we wanted to see out of this, we talked about how we weren't really looking at the metrics. We weren't looking for a measurable goal when it started. We just wanted to see an improvement in our brand image. We wanted to rebuild that trust, and we wanted to do that kind of by a feel-good, emotional campaign. But in December, we got our Facebook report back, and we were happy to see that our campaign over those 3 months had reached over 600,000 viewers. That was a 300% engagement, 300% increase in engagement with our membership. And then the videos combined, there were several, but there was a combined 56 hours of watch time for the video.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you, Krista. I appreciate that. Melanie, I'm gonna jump ahead here a little bit, not too far, but I want to talk to Melanie, our newest CEO in Ohio. So you were, thrust into the middle of this campaign or this idea, So first of all, let's give a little bit of background about you, and then we'll kind of talk about your role in terms of this campaign and your decision to support this program.
Okay. My background is, I don't think it's typical for a CEO. I grew up in California and went to school in Texas at Abilene Christian University to major in engineering physics. Tried that for a couple of years and decided I didn't want to be an engineer. Got out of there with a music education degree and did that for a few years, didn't like that. I think I'm ADHD because I just, but I found something eventually that I love, which was human resources. And I went back and got a master's degree in management with an emphasis in human resources. Been working at Buckeye Rural since 2013.
2013. So you took over as the CEO. What's been your biggest challenge, most pleasant surprise in taking on this role as CEO?
I'd say biggest challenge is probably just figuring out the balance between leading the inside employees, all the employees, and then getting to meetings outside of the office.
It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, the CEOs go to a lot of meetings, and I'm finding that out.
So, one of the things that you mentioned with engaging with the team, at the inside and outside places, just talk about how you do that every day.
One of the things I picked up from Leadership Elevate was a book that Rod had mentioned that's called Death by Meeting, and I've adopted that for my staff. We meet every day at 9:25 for a 5 to 10 minute meeting. This is with management, I should say. And it's totally changed our communication patterns. We talk openly about what we're working on, who's going to be in and out of the office, how what I'm doing affects you. It's just a quick huddle, and it's made a huge difference. I'm not somebody that stays in my office. I walk the building, so I see everybody every day. I try to see the linemen at least 2 or 3 times a week back in their lounge. And then we have focus meetings every Wednesday. I'm always there for that. We had our first State of the Co-op meeting in January where I met with all the employees and just let them know what projects were going on. I'm really trying to promote transparency.
Great. So, when you kind of came in the middle of this idea of the campaign, so just talk about, this inflection point of, we have a fork in the road. Krista and Danny came to you with an idea and just, why you supported the program, the campaign.
We were right up on it, and we had to make some quick decisions. So I'm really blessed to have really capable people. I trust Krista. We've worked on things in the past. I trust Danny a little bit less, but I still trust him. So everything we did, we went in both feet.
Yeah, talked about it as a team,
Yep.
arrived at it collectively as a
Yeah, it was
decision
really
before.
there where we got the two programs put together.
Yeah. So what are your expectations of your team when it comes to safety?
I shared on my first speech with the line workers that something that my son, if everybody at the co-op knows all about my son because I talk about him incessantly, but he's a member of the Blue Coats Drum and Bugle Corps, which is, if you know anything about Drum Corps International, that's a pretty high honor. It's one of the most prestigious corps. Well, when he got to his first rehearsals for drum corps, he found out that the expectations were higher for a drum corps at that level. And what they were told was that you don't get two chances. You do it perfectly the first time. And I told my line staff, that's my expectation of you for safety. You need to do it perfectly the first time.
And so a lot of the folks in the audience are from the board level. So what are you, how do you engage with the board on safety-related matters? And, what is their expectation of you and you them when it comes to safety?
Well, we have a very engaged board, especially when it comes to safety. It's rare when I don't get asked by one of them, if there's something that we need. They want to make sure that there's no tool that is needed. I know they talk to Danny directly. And they are fully engaged. It's always been the messaging that safety is the first thing. They don't want us to rush. They don't want us to send a message that we should rush. They want it done safely.
Great. Thank you. Well, I want to thank you guys all for sharing the Every Step Matters campaign. I want to now just turn to our two special guests today, Brandon and Brandie Hale. Are they in here? No, there they are. Okay. I have 4 sets of headlights staring at me, so I can't see. So we'll just bring up Brandon and Brandie. Brandon and Brandie are the parents of Blake Rodgers. We've had the opportunity to get to know each other over the last 3 years, and just learned a lot about their commitment to family, their commitment to love, their commitment to Blake, and really, just their commitment to, wanting Blake's memory to live on, and to do everything they can to help keep others safe and out of harm's way. So before we get started, and they wouldn't play along, but I'm going to ask them to introduce each other or introduce themselves. So just we'll get to know each other a little bit.
I'm Brandie Hale. I'm Blake Rodgers' mother. I'm the mother of 5, and I'm very honored to be here.
Brandon.
I'm Brandon Hale. I'm Blake's stepfather, better known as Big Sexy to Blake. I know y'all are very polished and professional people here, but that's the way it is. So I'm proud of that, and I will always be that, in my heart. I know everybody's time is short and valuable, and I appreciate y'all taking a moment to let us speak. I'm sorry.
No, it's always a challenging time.
It is. The emotions can be overwhelming.
Yeah, but one of the things that Brandie told me over the times we've gotten to know each other is how much she's learned about line work and about, this job and things like that. So Brandie, just, tell me, not from the grieving standpoint what the last 3 years have been like, but what you've learned about the job and, the impact that your son had and other linemen have, things like that.
I was totally clueless when he told me he was going to be a lineman. I was like, all right, you do what you want. Good for you. Had no idea the true impact of how safety can affect or destroy somebody's life, their family's lives. You have no idea. I've learned that the co-op and the electric companies all are such a brotherhood. Like, it's truly like a second family. You guys have been wonderful. You have helped, you have talked, you have answered questions. You have supported. You guys are really, really great. It's a learning experience, and I learn every day.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, great. And so when we talked, and obviously it's hard to still talk about, but you were like, I'm ready to talk about this, so why now, and kind of what overall big picture, what's the message?
Well, I'm an introvert. If you know me, I don't like to talk. I definitely don't like to do this, but I will do this forever if it can keep one person having to live what we live now. Safety is everything, and if we can get that a point across to everybody to know how much it affects our lives. We truly had no idea he was our son, and we loved him dearly. But we had no idea how many lives he truly affected in the short time he was alive. So we will do whatever it takes to keep another family from having to do it.
Great. So, your article that you published in the magazine, the conversation we had, there were basically 5 things, that you wanted these folks to understand. I'll put them all up on the screen, and I'm gonna let the two of you tag team them. But
take that one.
first thing you told me that is safety's got to take precedent every time, not just sometimes, but all the time.
Absolutely. Your life depends on it. Your family's lives depend on it. Your sister's life, everything depends on safety. Safety is number one, because if you don't come home, you destroy so many people's lives.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about it, the second one, just the cascading impact of your actions or inactions. And just, I was shocked, at the outpouring of support that you all got from, around not just, the neighborhood, from friends and family, the co-op community, but around the whole country. But our actions have consequences, for parents, for siblings, for coworkers, and everybody, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I'll let you talk about the next one. Just, we talk about complacency. The danger of success is complacency, Brandon. We talk about that all the time. Just we drive the same road to work every day, and we take for granted that it's all going to be clear and fine, right?
Absolutely. I know many of you have outstanding safety records, and that's something that you should be proud of. You've worked hard for it and earned it, and that's wonderful. However, you can't allow that past success to let cracks open up for future failures to seep in. So we all have a responsibility to those that we lead to do our very best every day to ensure that we're asking you to do the impossible, to seek perfection. And I know that is a very difficult charge, but I'm sure that there are people in this room who are capable of doing it. And that's what you must do under these circumstances, because there are literally lives on the line, and we know the after effect of that loss now. And we certainly don't want to see anybody else have to deal with that, if at all humanly possible.
Yeah, and the next one, again, we're talking to board members that have the financial oversight of the cooperative. So you can talk about the next bullet point.
Absolutely. We understand that this is a business, and that there are financial considerations that always have to be top of mind, but those can never be above the needs of your employees. You have a responsibility to those people to get them what they need, rubber gloves, the proper tools, proper sleep, proper food, everything, to ensure that you maximize their chances to go home that night. That's a responsibility that you take upon your shoulders when you take these positions, and I know that you all understand that. And I hope that it continues to be top of mind for all of you going forward.
And then, the last one, and I use the term leaders' words matter. If we're not telling our employees every day that safety is a priority, then they're going to make up their own mind what is the priority, right?
Every organization reflects its leader, every single one. So if you make safety your priority, the people that follow you and that you lead will make it their priority.
Great. And so, obviously, why we're here, and everything that we've been doing over the last 3 years is to remember Blake. We talk a little bit about how you guys kind of actively do that to make sure that his memory doesn't fade. You know, you have the Memorial Scholarship, you have the side-by-side event coming up here at the end of March. So just talk about some of that stuff, Brandie.
So we have the Memorial Facebook page for him, and then we have every year around his birthday, we do a memorial ride to celebrate his life. He loved to ride side-by-sides. There's Jeeps, there's motorcycles, there's everything there. But we do that to raise money for the scholarship and to honor him in a way that he would absolutely love. My biggest regret is I didn't have the memorial or a birthday bash like this while he was alive. He has tremendous friend support, and so many people come to honor him and to show their love for him. We do t-shirt sales, we do raffles, we do everything we can to honor him, keep his memory going, and to help future linemen.
And one of the ways that you've been doing it, we've been helping, is through the scholarship program, through the Scioto County Career Tech Center. So
Yes.
just talk a little bit about the impact that those dollars have had on that program.
As Krista mentioned, we do live in an impoverished area of the state, of the country, really. So we have limited opportunities for a lot of our young people. And we have been able to send 7 young men through lineman school. I believe the total was a little over $60,000 so far that we have been able to give to the Scioto Tech College.
From the co-op.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we just believe that it's the best way that we can give back to the community that has given us so much. I was in my Bible and in prayer a lot trying to figure out what I wanted to say today, and it didn't come to me till I was sitting back here, and I've heard the word love a lot. And that's what really struck me about this, is just the line community has shown us so much love, and we want to be able to return that. And we think that this is the best way that we can do that, is to, obviously the jobs are vital. We have to have electricity, right? So we need good people. And we want to make sure that we send as many good people, or help send as many good people to your all's line of work and your co-ops and your community as we possibly can, just to give back something that has been given to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're a little bit over our time, but I just
Sorry.
want to thank the two of you for being willing to come up on stage and share your story. I want to thank the staff at Buckeye Electric Cooperative for your leadership, and also I just want to thank everybody for your commitment to safety. I hope everybody leaves here today with that reinforced message that safety is job number one, not just sometimes, but all the time. So thank you guys. Everybody, please join me in thanking these folks.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.